session. We're really glad that you're all here. And I just briefly introduce everyone. We have 4 speakers today. It will be Rachel, me, and then Mahiya and Arudra. And we have all different topics we prepared. It will be 10 minutes each for those who haven't attended any JoyMasters yet. And yeah, I hope you feel the inspiration we share.
Should we do more than 10 since we only have 4 minutes?
No.
Like 12?
No.
10.
No, it's 10.
10. Don't throw that on me.
Rachel, may I introduce you?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rachel Anderson. I'll be speaking to you today. I just want to start with this amazing present Ruby gave me, and maybe I'll pass this around, but you got your little meditating bunnies, bliss bunnies, and then this one is sitting there being, don't think of anything, don't think of anything, don't think of anything. So, yeah, this is...
That's the one that's levitating.
But this is the one that's levitating. I wanted to point this out, that I feel very identified with this creature here, and this is the one that's levitating. Never mind. So yeah, what I wanted to talk to you guys about today, and I honestly feel like I have tons of thoughts that won't fit only in 10 minutes, but I'll do the best I can to share with you something. But I really had an experience in my life recently which made me realize how much the universe, its very nature, is change. And yet, all of us get very easily attached, and we believe that it won't change, and that it doesn't change. And I was speaking with someone, it was an ex-boyfriend, who had given me a mala that I've owned for like 5 years and worn after us even being together. And I was saying, you know, I still feel this attachment, and he was saying, you know, that's what you said when we were together about your boyfriend before. And I was like, oh man, okay, this is bad. So, and like at this point, I don't even, you know, I wouldn't ever want to see myself with my former boyfriend. So, you know, puts things in perspective. But yeah, so let's see. I think the nature of the universe is change, and I have one of my favorite stories that I recently told Arudra, which is it's from the Mahabharata, and it's Yudhishthira, and he's the eldest of the Pandava brothers, the 5 brothers, and he goes to this lake, and basically his brothers were on this quest for this deer and more details, but, and he goes to this lake and all his brothers are dead. And this is before the whole battle happens, and Indra, the god, had predicted Arjuna's victory in battle, and that Bhima would crush Duryodhana's thighs, and here they're dead, there's no blood, and there's this lake. And so he's like, he's figuring something out, and he has this, it's basically Yama, his father, the god of death, disguised as this crane, and he says, this lake is poisoned, I'll let you drink from it, but only if you answer these questions. And so one of the questions is, what is the greatest wonder? And so Yudhishthira promptly responds without hesitation, that we live each day surrounded by death, but as if we would never die. As if we will never die. And so this amazing quality we all have, I think, of not really seeing the end result, which is change, which is transmutation, which is Shiva coming in and dissolving each one of us. Another example I wanted to think about was just even the body's own regeneration. And I got just keeping the cells alive. It's not that we have the same body cells that are actually like renewed in every second. And I looked up that 11 to 13 million new cells are being born every second within our body. And it takes the skin 4 weeks to regenerate, the liver 6 weeks, the blood 16 weeks. So all this just completely new. You're a completely new person in all these different ways. And yet there's this illusion of changelessness, that things will stay the same. And for me, this is especially true. I don't know if there's any other people in this room who go on Facebook, but the more and more I go on Facebook, it's like, okay, this friend's getting married, this friend has a new baby, this friend has a second baby. I look at pictures of even my friends, and I feel like family that's in Ananda village, and it's like, oh my god, they all have gray hair. They're all getting older, I need to go over there and be with them before something happens. Yeah, just, it's again, I feel like, I don't know, maybe me especially, but I think all of us have a tendency to be attached to something that is bound to just ashes, dust to dust, transmute into nothing. So, I kind of was thinking of this question and really posing it, posing it as, okay, so there's this contradiction, this inherent illusion we're all buying into, and so like, what can we do about this? What can we do to, in a sense, remedy this situation? I mean, again, 120 years from now, none of the people that are alive today will be alive. It'll be a completely new world, all new people. I mean, same values and illusion going on, but, and so I really thought my main answer to this question was really, okay, so how can we appreciate the changing nature of the universe? And I really came to number one thing of being in the present moment. And actually this is a way that, in a sense, this leads to my other thought on this whole subject, is that our desire for that permanence is actually like a smriti thing where we know we're actually connected to something that is permanent, that is unmoving. You know, like the hymn to Brahma, he is permanent, unmoving, seer of all. And so like that we all seek, we're looking for, we know that we're a part of that which doesn't change, and that which stays completely the same. And so anyway, yeah, this being in the present moment, I think, is a way to actually enjoy both how things change all the time, and to get to that place where you can enjoy this changeless feeling of actually reaching that, that permanence, that sense of connection with every moment of past, present, and future. And I know in my own life, I've really enjoyed the practice of Bikram Yoga, which, for those of you who aren't familiar, it's like you go in about this size room, but it's like blasting heat from fans of like 100 degrees Fahrenheit, so I don't know what that is. In Celsius. It's very hot. So you're sweating. As soon as you walk in the room, you're sweating. And then you're there for an hour and a half, and you're doing all these crazy poses, like super severe, for like 60 seconds, and 60 seconds on the other side. And a joke I like to tell people about, you know, I started doing Bikram Yoga, but with Ananda Yoga affirmations. So the one, finally, at the series you get to at the end, is you do camel. It's like super intense and opening, and you're like, and like all your stuff comes up. It's like everyone hates that pose. You can just feel it in the room. There's like this sense of like, complete dread and hatred of this pose. And anyway, when I've had situations in my life that have been challenging, like this one in particular, and not wanting to let someone go who was in my life, but I needed to let them go. And so like what would come up every time is like instead of the affirmation for camel, if you know, the one where you're like this. So it's with calm faith. Wait, what is it? With calm acceptance. I know, I can't remember. Hold on. With calm faith, I open to thy light. That's the one. So, but every time I did this, other ones I would try to do the poses and it'd be like, with calm faith, I kill everyone. Like complete, you know, suicide bomber or whatever. Like that's how much emotion was just being brought up. But I felt like after the course of doing yoga for many times, I was doing it like 3 times a week for 2 years or something, and it's like I worked through that, and I didn't any longer feel that way when I was in that pose. And so for me, like Bikram Yoga was a way that's like so intense that I have to get out of my bunny mind, and that I actually have to be in the present moment. And because it is so challenging, and it's something that has to completely absorb you, and so then that's when you can be in that present timeless moment, but also just helps you appreciate, you know, whatever is actually happening right in front of you. So yeah, I think that would be the other piece of it too, is to really, you know, celebrate and appreciate and have gratitude for whatever is happening, and that whatever is different than what you think. Like I remember when I was at one of Swami Kriyananda's talks in Palo Alto, and it was at a Bhagavad Gita launch, and his main point, I think, of the whole talk was just the phrase, like, I can accept that. So like whatever is coming up, whatever in your life, just like, I can accept that. You know, really powerful, that stuck with me. Goes off, Ruby. Oh, I forgot to start it. Details. Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, so yeah, I went on Facebook and did a little research. And you know, there's that one column that actually says life event. You know, you can put your status in and then you go to life event. And I'm searching through, what's a life event? Like, how am I going to celebrate as a life event? Some of them are tattoo or piercing, changed beliefs, life event, new pet, new roommate, quit habit, or one of my favorites, create your own. So just, I mean, I think that idea of, you know, I think of the Bible with that phrase, like, this too shall pass. So kind of like the world is ephemeral, and that it's always going to be changing. And there's an element of this too shall pass, as in if you're in a challenge, you know something's going to change. You know it's going to lighten. But on the other side, you're like, if I love what I'm doing, this too shall change. And so, this too shall pass. And for me, especially like being, I think it's just like, Hawaii, I loved it, so being attached to Hawaii, and this person I was with, and then being attached to that. And it's like, man, just like wipe that away, and like be here now, you know? How hard is it? But it's like, the mind gets going, and you're involved, and you know, and even like my idea of like, if you could have an intense absorbing thing, like rock climbing, or whatever you really love, maybe it's like painting, or maybe it's cooking, or you know, chanting, you can get in that like timeless space. But how do you bring that into like every moment? When I went to convocation, I had one of the monks that said something really impressed me of, you know, if you can't appreciate and be really present in your conversation with who you're talking to, if you can't be fully present, then like go take a seclusion. Like it's time to go, and I think especially at Polestar here, okay, okay, so I just, okay, I'll finish what I said. Okay, so that, you know, and you really just need to go and be by yourself. If you can't be fully present to another person, that's your gift to them. That's your service, that's your dharma, to be fully present with people. And if you're like half listening and half checking your computer, it's like, no, if you need to have that time, go have a seclusion by yourself. But otherwise, be really present with the people you're with. Be present in the world you're in. So I will end late by just reading one of my favorite quotes by Yogananda, and I think it's stuff to think about, his last line, but he said, "Forget the past, for it is gone from your domain. Forget the future, for it is beyond your reach. Control the present. Live supremely well now. That is the way of the wise."
I'm Ruby, for those who don't know. And it's really interesting because it always happens this way. We know for a month that JoyMasters is approaching, but I only start thinking about my talk really 2 days before. So I was sitting in meditation 2 days ago, and I was just saying, okay, what shall my topic be like? And this came up. Live each present moment completely, and the future will take care of itself. Fully enjoy the wonder and the beauty of each moment. Fully enjoy the wonder and the beauty of each moment. And it's really interesting that Rachel kind of led into my topic. Without knowing, that's intuition.
You didn't know, you had the same topic.
It's not the same topic. I think I have different things to share. And yeah, this song was actually like a theme song in a scout camp I attended in 2009, which is already a few years ago, but I think it was one of the deepest experiences in the scout camp I ever had. And I remember really intensely a moment at the end of the camp where we were all sitting together in a circle and just sharing about our experience in the camp. I don't know, the whole time I was really present, but I was playing with little sticks and laying the words to the song, Live Each Present Moment, and I just, ever since then, I really recall in that moment this feeling of joy and peace and of expansion and like unity with all the people who were there, but also nature after this amazing week. And I don't know, since then this song is really one of my favorites. And so I wanted to explore this a bit more, like what does it really mean to be in the present moment, and why is it so great to be in the moment? And I think also the song answers a bit itself, because it says like, live each present moment completely and the future will take care of itself. And I think if you think about it like with your rational mind, it's a bit strange, like the future takes care of itself, like you don't have to plan things, you don't have to, you know, communicate with others, what are we doing tomorrow, like what am I eating for lunch, and like what am I going to tell my boss when I didn't do the things I should do, all these things, you know, where you are constantly with your mind in the future, but also in the past, you know, oh, what if that didn't happen, and it's really amazing. And like when you really take that moment and you really are aware with your full being, with your full consciousness in the moment, then I think you really have an attunement also to the divine, you know, because you're kind of in the center, because you're not somewhere else, like, oh, what am I going tomorrow, what is there, you know, what are these people thinking, but you are in the center. And when you're really connected to that center, I think you really don't have to worry at all about the future, because, you know, you're just in this divine flow, and like God's grace will give you everything. I mean, Swamiji always tells stories how, you know, just miracles basically happened when he said, like, Divine Mother, how am I going to do this, you know? Like, he wanted to go to India when his car broke down, so he had to buy a new car, and then the next day, basically, I think money came, and it was from a anonymous person, and just said, you know, like, use it as Divine Mother wants it to use or something. And like, I mean, these things really can happen when you tune in to that center and awareness within you. And another thing which also really struck me, I just really understand that recently, was I think when you are in the moment, there can be no fear. Because like fear is always a projection of, you know, something, oh God, you know, I will get hurt, or oh God, I will die, or oh God, I will be totally lonely, or it's always something which is like, yeah, it's like your mind makes it up basically. And it's not in the moment. When you're really truly in the moment, I think there can be not a fear, because you can just ask yourself, you know, is it really true? Is it now? Are you really like alone now? Are you dead now? I mean, it's really interesting. And I don't know, I try to also, try that a bit out, to whenever I feel really like shaky or fearsome, just before this talk, for example, I really, okay, your topic is live each present moment, so be in the moment, and it really helps to connect to that, to that center, what also Rachel was talking about. I mean, like this inner bliss, which is, you know, just constantly there, like God is constantly with you. There's nothing to worry about, actually. And then there's also the next, phrase, stanza of the song, fully enjoy the moment and the beauty of each, fully enjoy the wonder and the beauty of each moment. And I was reflecting a bit on the word enjoy, and it's really funny because I also just wrote a little paper for my studies about enjoyment. And in that I really kind of had to define what enjoyment is. And I think some people think maybe that enjoyment is like, I don't know, I eat a big ice cream, or I go on holidays all the time, or you know, these things. And like outside, more materialistic things. And I think in the true sense, enjoyment though is really, yeah, having that moment, accepting whatever is, don't judge, and just enjoy what God gives you, you know, what the beauty of life is really there. And even in hard times, it can be helpful to go within and really find joy in suffering. And oh yeah, I think also when you are, and like in the sense of enjoying, I think you are also more the observer than really the actor. That means you don't really identify so much with your body and your thoughts, but you're really more aware of the situation and you're above it basically. And yeah, gives you that sense of maybe more super conscious perceptions of the world. And I think that's the true enjoyment, which is also meant in the songs and in the song. And yeah, then you can really become aware of the beauty. And there's a story to that too. In the same scout camp, we had an exercise where we went off from our basic camp to find our sacred spot. And the exercise was to go there and then sit there and calm and really listen to all sounds around you and really becoming one with the sounds, and let the sounds come to you. Because very often you're basically only listening to one sound actually, like, oh, there's someone screaming there, or oh, there's someone talking there, but in the meanwhile there are birds singing, there's the wind. And so this was the exercise, and I was pretty quick to find my spot, so I sit down, and like everyone else was still rushing through the forest and like shouting a lot, though we were meant to be in silence. And in my like critical mind, I was like, oh man, these people really don't understand it. Like, can't they just shut up for a minute? Like, and it went on a bit like this, and then suddenly I was like, oh Ruby, what are you doing? You know, you're totally judging them. You know, this is also part of the nature sounds. You know, it's me who separates between nasty sounds and beautiful sounds. So after that, I really tried to like embrace also the disturbing sounds before, and it really worked. It really was like suddenly, I don't know, then only there came this feeling of really embracing this. And I don't know, the sound exercise really stuck with me also a long time. In my school or wherever in daily life, I really felt, I don't know, I was losing it a bit, or I wasn't really present. I really would do, like, using this as a tool basically to come back to the present moment and like, okay, what's going on? Like, for example, in my final, oops! Okay, I finished this. Okay. In my final exams, I was, yeah, using it really as a tool to like concentrate and, yeah, bring me back in the moment, and so I could really pass the exams well. And, well, I didn't say everything I wanted, but I hope we can all enjoy little moments every day, more and more, and embracing the beauty of this universe.
So I was also meditating on what to talk about, and I actually felt to talk about the guru and discipleship role, but more aimed towards people not like you, who maybe are already disciples, but people who are interested in the spiritual path, but have a bit of a struggle with what does it mean to have a guru, why should I have a guru? And so I'd like to ask you the favour of just pretending that you're that type of person. And so, you know, I feel it's something nice that, for me to practice, because it's something which comes up very often with people who come onto this path and many other paths. Why is it that I need a guru? Okay, so now this talk starts. So sometime last year, I participated in a course on brain integration. It was here at Ananda, and it was with a friend of Ananda's called Stan. And one of the exercises that we did was, there was various methods of testing whether you're mainly left brain or right brain. And so we were all in partners, and he was teaching us the method of finding out which side of the brain that we use. And so we're testing, and there were some, not clear results, which is normal because we were all just practicing, weren't really, very used to doing this technique. But one of the girls there, a friend of mine, Kamala Devi, she said, well, it's really unclear and it's not working, so she called Stan over and said, look, Stan, can you have a go? So he tests her, and he tests the left brain, and then he tests the right brain, and it's like all confusing results. And he said, this is really funny, okay, so let's try this. And he tries something else, and it's still confusing. Tries something else, and still unclear results, and he's an expert, he's been doing this for years. But then he had an intuition. He said, hang on a minute, let me try something else. He puts his hand on top of her head, and he tests, and it comes out positive. Aha, wow, he says, this I hardly ever see. This is what's called the divine connection. You don't work from left brain or right brain mainly, but your channel is from the top of your head, meaning that you're divinely connected. So we were all there like, wow. She's really like something special. Like Kamala Devi is an intuitive person, so it kind of made sense, but at the same time, it's, oh, I'm not, But then he said, well, why don't you all try on each other, Oh, I didn't press start. Oops. Okay, I'll just go to 8 minutes. Why don't you all try on each other? So we all began trying on each other, and in the back of my mind, of course, well, I'm not really an intuitive person, and I'm not special, I'm not psychic, and so. But one by one, there was 10 of us in the room. Every single person that was tested, every single one had that divine connection. And this was fascinating for me because, as I said, we weren't particularly intuitive people, saints, very advanced spiritually, psychic, special kind of people. We're all just normal, ordinary people, but yet we've all got this thing. He said he was just amazed. Flabbergasted is the word I use if you speak English. And he said, I've never seen this, in all my life. This is so rare that maybe 1 in 100 people has this. And here we are in a room and everyone has it. And so we were all thinking, why? What is it? And we realized, wow, every single one of us in this room is a disciple. We've all taken discipleship. And this amazing realization that just in the practice of taking the step of taking discipleship, something happens. This channel opens. It's not that you walk around having visions, hearing voices, but it's almost like from that moment, there's a living presence in your life, and it's always there guiding you in every situation. The first experience that I had of this presence of Yogananda, I speak about Yogananda because he's my guru, but obviously it's the same for any guru, male or female, whoever they may be. The first experience that I had of Yogananda's guiding presence in my life was actually when I came to Ananda, the first real experience. And I had been at Ananda village for 3 months, and then I went back to England, and being a very independent, stubborn person, which many of us are, I think, very headstrong, and I don't need a community, I can do this by myself, I'm going to live in London, I'm going to get a job, I'm going to, do it by myself, and I'll go to a meditation class, but I'm strong. And after 5 days, I was like, I can't do this! So I started, I knew that everything I was doing was wrong. But what was I supposed to be doing? So I prayed to Yogananda, and I've never ever prayed like this in my life. But Yogananda says we should pray like this every single day, in every single moment. So, praying so intensely, what am I supposed to be doing? What am I supposed to be doing? And I said, I can't hear your voice. Don't talk to me through voices. I can't have visions. Don't give me a vision. I can't. A material sign. Give me a material, something which I cannot mistake. I need a material sign. The very next morning, I was staying with my friend in London, in Centre Point in London. There was a nightclub underneath his apartment. It was, and he came into the apartment. You know, Zoe, this was my name before. Zoe, look what just came from my parents. A postcard just came from my parents. And as he turned it over, it was like this moment of what, just realization, all ego, all doubt went out of my mind. What did I see on that postcard? Assisi. In that moment, I knew this was Yogananda answering my prayer. This is where you're supposed to go. This is what you're supposed to be doing. There was no doubt. So this is Yogananda working in my life. And as I said, we have to pray intensely like that, Yogananda says, in every single moment of our lives. Now, we do that to lesser degrees. You know, usually when we're desperate, we start praying really, really intensely. And when things are going well, we forget and we kind of relax a little bit. But really, the life of discipleship and the life of a guru, the role of a guru is this constant dialogue with the guru. What should I do? Where should I go? Teach me how to act, teach me how to feel, teach me what I should say, teach me what choice I should make. This constant asking, this constant listening, and this channel is open, and the guru, as much as you ask him and as much as you will let him, he will work through your life and he will guide you. Now, some people might struggle with the thought of, but what about my own free will? What about me making decisions? Why would I want to give across every single decision in my life to someone else? As Yogananda, when Swamiji asked Yogananda the same thing, like, what Yogananda asked Swami, will you give me your unconditional obedience? And Swami said, but what if I feel that you're wrong, sir? He wanted to be sincere. And Yogananda said, I will never ask you anything that Divine Mother herself does not ask me to ask you. And so that was satisfying for Swamiji, and he said, I give you my unconditional obedience. So we may struggle with this idea of giving over our, almost asking somebody else to make the decisions for us and guide us into them. But one way I like to think of it is really, just like, imagine you have to go to Rome, okay, and you've never been to Rome, and you have no map and you don't know where you're going. You could try and guess how to get there, and you may more or less, like after several weeks, find the right road down there. And I've tried it, by the way. I've tried getting to Rome without a navigator, and got to a junction where it was written, I came off the motorway for some reason and had to get back on, and I came to the junction, it was written Rome and Rome. This is typical Italy. And okay, which way should I? Okay, I'll go left. Left took me back up the wrong way of the motorway, like the opposite direction. I came off at the next junction into like a huge city centre, all the way around the city centre, back onto the motorway, and I'm back on my way. So we can do this, we can live our life like this, and more or less we find our way, you know, we guess, oh, we go left here, and we go right here, oh no, I made a wrong turn, I'll go back. But if we ask the Guru to direct us and guide us, he's going to take us on the right road. You know, and it's usually, I mean, it's not usually, it is the most direct route, okay, so we're going on a direct route. But it might not be the scenic route. You know, we can go to Rome on all the small roads and, oh, it's so pretty, but it's going to take a long time. But we can, it's fine. But if you invite the Guru to take me to Rome on the quickest route, he's going to take you down the motorway, and it might be, you know, beautiful in some places, but it's also, am I 10 minutes? 9. But it might be tough. I mean, there might be torrential rain, or there might be fog, or there might be an angry driver beeping at you, or you might run out of gas, or so. But this is the point. He's going to take you exactly where you need to be. You know, his most advanced disciple, female disciple Gyanamatha, said, "Don't change any circumstance of my life. Change me." And this is a beautiful prayer, because that means, Guru, take me exactly where I need to go. I trust you. I know that you're going to take me where I need to go. Change my attitude, change my approach, guide my thoughts, guide my feelings, guide my love, my heart, everything until my will is completely in tune with yours, which is the divine will. How much have I got?
That's right.
Okay, so just to finish them, there's a beautiful poem written, it's called Footprints, you may have heard of it, and it's about a lady who talks about seeing her whole life and footprints, on 2 pairs of footprints underneath. And she is a bit dismayed when she sees that in the most hard parts of her life there's only 1 set of footprints. And she asks, Lord, well, where were you when I needed you most? And he said, daughter, when there was only 1 set of footprints, that was when I was carrying you. This is what the Guru does for us.
My notes are written on the schedule. So, my name is Arudra, I guess everyone knows that. Yeah. I was talking yesterday to 2 dear friends from India, Shurja and Narayani, and we were just kind of joking and talking about marriage. And Shurja said something interesting. He said, if you want a successful marriage, there's only 2 rules. He said, the first rule is the wife is always right. And he said, the second rule is if anything goes wrong, refer back to the first rule. So, but anyway, then seriously, Narayani asked, it was quite funny because she was,
That's mine.
oh, maybe I should start again. I started. And she kind of became serious all of a sudden, and she asked everyone, so what's the secret to your marriage? And I was kind of thinking about it. It's not that I have that much experience in it, but of the 2.5 years of experience I do have. The only thing that came to my mind was fun. And because I felt it was really important to just be light with each other. And also when something goes wrong, that's the moment to be lightest, because just to realize kind of, just because it didn't go my way doesn't mean that it's exactly bad. Or just because the other person does something that you don't like, doesn't mean that it's wrong. So, but then I thought, that didn't feel quite complete, but then I remembered Asha many years ago asked Swami at the very beginning of Ananda, what is the purpose of Ananda? And Swami said, the purpose of Ananda is to have fun. But then he said, but you have to understand what I mean by fun. And he said, fun is feeling God's presence within you and sharing that joy with everyone. And that brings me to my topic today, which is the relationship of our inward life and of our outward life. And it's actually funny because it's quite connected to the first 2, of staying in the present moment. Because I actually found I remembered some quotes by Christ, and I found them because I thought they were quite interesting. Because he speaks of that relationship. In one he says, therefore when thou doest basically he says when you give, I think old English is
Just paraphrasing, right?
He basically said when you give money, don't be a hypocrite like all the Pharisees who kind of go around like, ooh, look how much money I'm giving, like, ooh, He says when you give money, do not let your left hand know what the right is doing. And he actually says the same about praying. He says when you pray, do not be also like the Pharisees and the hypocrites who are kind of stand in the streets praying so that everyone will think like, ooh, look how spiritual they are. But he says, go home and he said, close yourself in a room and then pray in secret. And he says, in both of the cases, it's interesting because it says, your Father listens in the secret. And he said that he will reward you, and he will reward you openly. And which both of these basically say that our relationship with God is our own. And we have to always keep it our own. But it's interesting because then there's another quote that I found that Christ said, And he talks to his disciples and he says, you are the light of the world. And he said, a city that is put on a hill cannot be hid. And he goes on to say that if you have a candle, you won't hide the candle under a table. You'll put it on the table on a candlestick, and it will give light to the whole room and everyone who enters the room. And so he said, in that same way, you have to shine your light and let everyone see, basically see your good works, and basically recognize the hand of God in that. And it's interesting because I was thinking those two seem very, very, they seem completely opposite, but they're actually not. And what helped me realize that was Swami's example. Because Swami never kind of walked around with an air of like, oh, look at me, you know, like I'm the spiritual teacher, like, and it's interesting because, I mean, I've heard so many stories now about Swami helping other people, and it was always, I mean, except for a few very particular occasions where I think the person needed something really direct, it was very, very subtle. Like there's a story of a woman having a chronic back pain, just like for several decades basically, and she described it one day that she was at a banquet with her husband and with many people from Ananda with Swami, and at a certain point Swami kind of rose and he was talking, and he actually came and he stood between her and her husband, and he talked to her husband, but he put his hand on her back. And you know, he talked just for half a minute and then he left. And she said she never had a pain again. So, which is, and one thing that also came to my mind when I was thinking about this is that when we have a really deep friendship with someone, and our friend tells us their secrets and their kind of most intimate things, we don't really go around saying that to everyone. And it's the same with God. So if we get a blessing that you know, either we have an experience that really touches us, or we go deep in meditation, like deeper than ever before, or whatever. I mean, there's so many ways in which God blesses us. It's the same. It's God is really giving us His own heart, and so it's we shouldn't just go around telling everyone about it. Even though sometimes it is appropriate. Like, and it's actually funny because even with friends, if you have a really close friend, but that friend has someone else who's a close friend, you probably can't share some things with that other friend. And so I think it's the same in the spiritual community. There's things that we can share with each other because we're all friendly guys. So.
That's funny.
Just think about you're there. So, but it is what Christ says also in this other one, that we do need to shine our light. And I really try to meditate on, like, so how if you don't, I mean, I come from a Catholic background, and in the Catholic Church, at least in my experience, there's a lot of, how do you say, outward, there's a lot of pomp, there's a lot of just kind of pretending without any corresponding inward grace, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. And I kind of realized our path is almost completely the opposite. You know, we do all these things to try and help. You know, we serve in all the ways we can. We try to create, you know, magnetize things and do creative things and do fun things, and just, like, I mean, Swami is just a great example. He just never, even when he went on vacation, he would usually either work on a book or he would go out and, like, you know, just basically be giving energy all the time to people. But I think all of us know that what it's really all about is our relationship our inward relationship with God, and then sharing that relationship with everyone else. And that also, there was one story about Swami really amazed me, because which was it was quite recent, in the last couple of years of his life. And he was on vacation somewhere, I can't really remember where, it doesn't really matter. But he was out with a group of people, and they were walking in this town on a street with many, many shops. And he would just, like, every so often, he would just kind of smile at people. And he didn't have his blue robe, so like he couldn't notice that he was a Swami or anything. He just looked like any normal person would. And he would just go in a couple of in some interesting shops and just kind of look around and talk to the shopkeepers. And after a while, they reached this shop, and they entered, and there was a woman inside. And when Swami started talking to her, and she said, after a while, he asked her, what's her name and what she does, and after a while, she said, I was really hoping you would. Said, I was really hoping you would come to my shop. And he just said, well, why is that? And she just said, well, I don't know. She said, when I saw your group walking on the street, so there was this light surrounding you. And that's the way all of us should try and serve, by just being as much as we can with God. And the more we are with God, the more we can share. And in fact, I think we often think that we often think we have to end now. Just two things. We often think we have to do something particular. There's this great work we have to do, or like I have to do this, or I have to be a teacher, I have to be this, and it's really not ever about that. It's just about being with God. And then, if you end up being a teacher, great. If you don't, it's great again. So I would just like to end with my original plan for this talk was to talk on the chant and poem God, God, God that Master wrote, and Swami wrote the music for it. But I just would like to end with the last verse of that poem, which goes, in waking, eating, working, dreaming, sleeping, serving, meditating, chanting, divinely loving, my soul will constantly hum, unheard by any. God, God, God.
Who tells me thou art God, oh, my Mother divine? Who tells me thou art God?